Yeah, we've been talking about this oil price issue. However, if we dovetail it back to the reality of our situation, what is happening is not the increase in oil price. What is happening is the decrease or the devaluation of our naira. Oil, for instance, is an international commodity. You can't play around that. It's an international commodity. So what we look at is how much is the price of PMS, because PMS is the one that affects almost all of us. For instance, we have devalued AGO and the other ones, that the one you call diesel. That one has been devalued for years and nobody has been complaining, and the price has been very high comparably to whatever is obtainable in the international market. But when PMS is touched, we all talk. But what has happened is government has consistently been subsidizing the price. So, but unfortunately, because our currency keeps getting devalued, the price looks like it is rising. But if you look at it today as I speak to you, the price of PMS in Nigeria is still around less than $1. It's still around less than $1, about $0.80, $0.8. So, which means it is the same price of petrol that we are buying today, that we are buying during even Jonathan's time. What has changed is the fact that our naira has fallen from 200 naira to $1 to 1,600 naira. So those are the real issues. Now, why are we here? Why we are here is simple. We are not a productive economy. We are a consumption economy. We consume more than we produce, which means we do not earn enough dollars to buffer the naira. So the more we import than export, the more we deplete our dollar. And the more we deplete our dollar, the more we will need more naira to buy the dollar. So when you keep doing that, what we call our balance of trade is negative, then automatically our currency will not be as strong as it should. What Nigerians need to be looking at right now is, as a country, what should we do as a people? We need to be more productive. We need to export more than we are importing. Because right now, it is so bad that almost everything we are doing, including even consumable like food and other things that are being imported, we practically don't do anything here for ourselves. So our economy has been stagnant for the years past. From the years past. And we are now seeing the effect. So it's easy to say, petrol is now 1,200 or 1,100. But clearly petrol is still, in dollar, it's still the same amount that it was under Jonathan then, that it is now. What we have been doing is that we've not been productive. During the time of Jonathan, we are luckier that we were able to have up to over 2 million barrels of 2 million barrels of crude oil that we were selling. Now we sell less than 1.5 million. So we are not earning enough dollar to buffer the naira. And then, like I said somewhere, from the machination of the CBN and the Ministry of Finance, we need to work on how to stop criminality. Because even though we have devalued our currency, they call it float, we have not been able to arrest the criminal component of why our naira is being devalued. What do I mean? Our naira is undervalued. From analysis done, if you buy local product here, and you compare local product in the currency that we are using, in, for instance, an American market to a Nigerian market, you find that what you are buying is about 900 naira here. It's not it's less than what they are buying at $1. So it's actually cheaper. But our naira, I don't know whether I'm making sense, but the value of our currency is so undervalued, and that lies between the people who are managing our fiscal policy and the monetary policy. That is between the CBN and the Ministry of Finance. So we need to ramp up our productive economy. We need to reduce our appetite for imported goods. We need to ensure that, like Korea did in those years, they got to the point where they say, look, whatever we cannot produce, then we do not need. That was what came up with the idea of buy Korea, use only Korea. If you go back to our parents' time, if you go home, go back to the TV your father was using, then you will see Sanyo, you will see JVC, all those ones. Then LG came with their Lucky Gold Star. Nobody was buying. Korea went back, redesigned it. Today, if you go to any home today, you won't see a Sanyo TV again. You are likely going to see an LG TV because they went back, repackaged, and today they are selling to us and we are buying. So we don't make anything, we buy everything. So it's a destructive way for anybody to run an economy. Even me, I'm suffering. I have a car, I buy fuel, so I won't sit here and pretend like everything is good. It's affecting everyone. However, to answer your question, there will never be a right time or a wrong time. What we need to now do is, if we have a situation like this at hand, what should we do? Firstly, and people have said it and I'm going to reiterate it, the government needs to show some form of empathy, especially in terms of cutting down on the cost of governance and ostentation in terms of showing people wealth. You cannot tell Nigerians, let us tighten our belt and you are living like prince and princesses. We need the government to work on that aspect. However, there are other things that can also be done. What we have never done in Nigeria is that we are a very planless country. We have plenty body of works in terms of development programs, but we never implement anything. So, for instance, in Nigeria today, we do not have a transport plan and transport system. What do I mean? If we are able to build our public transportation system to such a development level where almost everybody can go on public transport, then there will be less use of our cars. And if there are less use of our cars, then I will only fuel my car maybe for private use on Sunday, but going to work and coming back, most people in developed countries will use public transportation system. But we do not have public transportation system. Many people don't have vehicles. For instance, that we're in Abuja here, they will either take Uber or you take all those drivers that always put their hand up outside when they are driving. And we have had stories of one chance and all these things. So government needs to have come to a place where they plan to put in public transportation system that actually works. Lagos State has tried in terms of public transportation. I don't think any other state have done as well as Lagos. They have tried to go to the waterways. They have done a lot with rail system. They even signed a new one now that will get to the Lekki corridor. They have done a lot in terms of buses and stuff for people to go to work and move. So, and if you check almost all our big men, when they go to London, for instance, you see them on public buses and transportation. Why can't we replicate the same thing here? So, if I wouldn't say they should bring back subsidy because it doesn't make sense to walk backward. But before we did this, we could have developed our transport system, and this also is part of our governance or part of misgovernance. How do I mean? The federal government does not have the right to develop a transport system for everybody. Each state governor needs to develop a transport system that works for the people. We need to have a transportation system that will work so that people will not have to go to work, or in their cars. We also need to have a system where farm products can move from the farms to the city and to where it will be consumed. That way we will not have this kind of high cost of food production. We won't have high cost of food. So we have not planned for a day like this. And this now behoves on all of us to sit down and reevaluate our lives as a country. Do we want to have a country that works, or want to continue to complain? Because clearly the federal government will not come and put buses on the road for Jigawa governor. Neither will they come and put buses on the road for Oyo State governor in Ibadan. The governors have to sit down and have a concise document for development planning in terms of transport sector, agricultural sector, educational sector, youth development and planning. We don't have plans for anything. We just live from day to day and we all pray to God that God will just do it. God will not do things that He has given man the intelligence to do. So planning has been our bane. I know the government has been talking about this CNG stuff. If you are able to convert your vehicle to CNG, you will reduce cost of transportation. The cost you are spending on fueling your car by 60%. But the conversion kits are not available. Even if you're able to convert, we don't have enough stations selling or dispensing CNG. So these are part of the distortions. So if we have planned this, we have a system that works, we won't have all these problems. Because in real world, where things work, everybody don't drive their cars on the road on every day. In fact, if you are in London, for instance, There are places that if you drive to, like you call to central London, you will be charged a fee. They call it congestion fee for coming to drive. So it's better you use a public transport. So we need to develop our system. And like I said, it is not about the people or the federal government alone. It's about all levels of government coming together to plan the system to ensure that it works for the people. All of us have been paying. I don't use the fintech banks. I use the traditional bank. I pay. However, I think it's a mistimed program. I must be very honest. It's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's mistimed. Even if we want to deduct, is it not that everybody's complaining? So what we are going to do now, we are going to drive all these small market women back to the use of cash. So I think whoever is in charge of this, please look at I'm looking at you in the camera. I hope you are seeing this. Let us suspend this. It is not at this kind of time. But me, I pay it because I don't use those small fintech banks. But for heaven's sake, the poor people struggling, there must be some empathy. Even if we are right, being right is not, you can be right and everybody will die because you are right. So why don't we be empathic and say, look, the people we have overburdened them. Already they have moved my house meter from band B to band A, and I'm very, very angry and disappointed and displeased. So now imagine that you now have to pay to do transfer again. Some of these people have been able to develop the use of POS. So now they do their businesses and it's neater. Now you will drive these people back to cash. So I think whoever is bringing this policy should please suspend it. It is not the right time. The poor people in Nigeria are already overburdened with what we are doing to them. And adding more burden to their burden is like you are just putting in more pain into the body of a man who is already down. So for me, my own advice to whoever is in charge of this 10 naira, 5 naira, whatever they are charging, should stop. It's not the right time. We have what we call system of entrenched interest. In Nigeria, you have an entrenched interest in almost all the subsectors. For instance, if you look at the dollar issue, there are cabals. They are the ones who have sat down and they are fixing dollar prices. Because, like I said, and I'm still saying it today, there is no econometrics that you can calculate that is causing this dollar naira issue. I just said it earlier on in my interview here with you that the dollar to naira is undervalued. Now these things are being orchestrated by a bunch of people who have been used to the past system. I will explain. There's nowhere in the world where CBN gives money to outsiders at a rate to go and sell to people at over 300 naira arbitrage. It's criminal. Now these people have been entrenched. So this new man now came and said, we are cancelling that. You think those people are happy? Rather than fix our refineries in the years past, they gave their friends papers and right to import. You think those people want any refinery to work today? Because in chaos, there's a Yoruba word that says, Arijeninu Madam. Some people, they prosper in chaos. They prosper in the suffering of the majority. Because that is what we are seeing here. Now, they have ensured that the federal government or the government refinery doesn't work. Now, the private one that wants to work, they are fighting it. So it is an entrenched system. If anybody thinks this is normal, it's not normal. I have read all economic textbooks. You will see that every economic textbook process you apply to that, it will never work. You say you want to have a free market. You say, okay, let everybody have free market. Some people go and sit down somewhere and say, okay, this thing, we are selling it at 5 naira. Now it's free market. We'll sell 15 naira. It doesn't matter whether it came out. Okay, let me give you a good example. In fact, it was in the news recently where the price of wheat moved from 65 naira, to 85, from 85 naira before the protest. It now moved to 100 and something naira. As I'm sure you saw the news yourself. And the Holland people who were producing wheat said we didn't increase the production from our area, from our end. We still give it at 60 naira per bag, which they were selling by the time they had their transport and profit at 85 naira. But they decided by themselves that it will become 120 naira, 150, I can't remember. So this is the problem. We do not have any market-driven economic system in Nigeria. Everything here is an entrenched system. Some people profit from the pain of the rest of us. That is why our refineries will never work. That is why, as you float the naira, naturally the naira will have gone up, then it will have stabilized at it. But it's not stable till today. As I speak to you today, you can hear 1.5, tomorrow is 1.6, next tomorrow is 1.4, then in the next another week is 2,000. It is because there is not any econometrics that is driving it. Everything should have been driven by demand and supply. But what is causing this demand? Is it people that are going to school? They are not paying school fees last month. Nobody is going to school abroad now. So is it people that are going for treatment? What is driving this dollar naira? You can't even tell anybody. When they first remove subsidy from fuel, you remember they said our consumption rate was 80 million per day. It came down to 30 million. Now, because another magomago system has entered, now it has gone to about 70 million per day. So it is not economic, it is criminal. I have not changed my mind, and I will still say it every day. Some people profit from the pains of Nigerians. And I don't know how to say it, but I almost want to curse. I just have to hold myself. It is painful because you can see it, but you can't stop it. It's an unfortunate situation. I hope that what this president is doing will eventually bring some succor to Nigerians. But in the meantime, things are really difficult. My advice to the president and to the government is that he should continue to pursue the reforms he's pursuing, but he should do it with some form of caution. Because while he thinks this is a market driven, some are not okay. The FCPCC came up with a new a story recently that one blender that they saw in the US was selling for 140. By the time you calculate it to naira, it was about 140,000 naira by the blender. But when they went to shops, they were selling at 900 and something naira. So over 500% interest. So people buy something. The cost of this thing should be maybe, if by the time you import and you pay your tax, everything should maybe, let's say 200,000. But people will just sit down and say we'll sell it 500,000. It doesn't matter. So sometimes we just have a system that we have rigged against the poor. So I will ask Mr. President that while he's doing his reforms, he needs to have his ears on the ground so that before the reform will finally reach the destination point, everybody that is supposed to enjoy will have died before we get there. So these are the challenges. While reforms are good, there's a Yoruba adage again, because I'm a Yoruba man. He said, that it is good to the meat, you need to dry it and roast it and become. But before the meat will roast after a few days or weeks, what will we eat in the middle of that period? So we need to make sure that there are ways we succor people. And I'm not talking about sharing bags of rice, because I think Nigerians are tired of every problem share bag of rice. There should be very practical means of reaching the overburdened and average Nigerian. And what do I mean? I just gave an advice about how much is that amount? Is it 15 naira or how much they want to be removing from those? But we should stop some unnecessary taxation should be suspended now. I know they have started this story about 10% VAT. I know that the Minister of Finance said no, it's not. But that's how they start. And then they want to punish us. They first throw it out so that we will talk, then they will not do it. Please don't add to the VAT because people will just die. So we need to have human face. Yes, reforms are good, and I would never stop it. I'm an economist. I understand that reforms are always part of days and life of human beings. But while we are having reforms, let us have human empathy too. Because if you have good reforms and the people have died in the middle of your reform, then by the time you get to the end of the road, you'll be alone. The whole world is dead. So we need to have reforms with human face and empathy in our hearts. I pray that God will give our president and the leaders the wisdom to run this ship, and I hope sincerely that the governors are also listening, because like I said earlier on, the federal government is not alone in this. We have local system, we have the state system. All of them must work for Nigeria to work. We can't expect only one aspect of our system to work. All the three arms of government must work in terms of from the local government to the state government and now to the federal government.